This is one of the hardest throwing pitchers that you probably haven't heard of unless you're a Phillies fan. He's kind of floated under the radar a little bit, but this is an example of a guy who I personally think has the most aesthetically pleasing mechanics in the big leagues. Potentially one of the more efficient deliveries from a biomechanical efficiency standpoint. Again, at this point, that's more kind of subjective, but I did want to go through why I feel like Seranthony Dominguez has such electric patterns, how he's able to effortlessly sit 99, 100 miles an hour, very low effort level, perceived effort level, and just break down some of the positions he's able to get into, how he's able to do that, and really just share this with you. So again, main thing is there really isn't such thing as perfect mechanics because everyone is dealing with different anatomy, different structures, different lever lengths. So what's perfect and most efficient for Dominguez, that's not going to work for a guy like Justin Verlander who doesn't have the hip rotation, range of motion to get into some of these positions. So efficient, optimal, right? It's going to be completely reliant on the individual, and that's really one of the important pieces of within your own development as an athlete or as a coach, working with a ton of different types of players, understanding, what is optimal really is going to be relative to what they're dealing with. And if you're going to pick a big leaguer who, is a good comparison to learn from, really trying to find someone for each athlete that, has a similar type of structure, which can sometimes be hard to tell without, knowing a ton of details about so-and-so big leaguer. So that out of the way, let's just break down why I'm such a fan of his patterns. First things first is just the overall rhythm and fluidity of his entire delivery. So we can all see that. Even people without, a background in pitching can kind of see this is a very smooth, effortless delivery. Ball completely jumps out of his hand. And one of the main things I like to talk about is how pitching really comes down to you're stitching waves of energy together, right? It's a dance. It's a coordinated dance move. It's a powerful dance move. You're trying to both blend the linear component of the throw. So the linear component of the throw would be this piece of the throw, linear with the rotational element. Rotational element would be that piece of the throw. So linear with rotation, and you're trying to do all of this and stitch all these loops or waves of energy together while minimizing the leakage of that energy or of that transfer of energy or momentum through the system. So again, this is somewhat subjective. There are companies and individuals out there that are looking to quantify mechanical efficiency. One example would be Reboot Motion, where they're looking to quantify, be able to calculate how much momentum is being created through the system and be able to calculate where in the chain the energy might be getting leaked. So that is something that's being worked on. But again, subjectively, incredible rhythm, incredible kind of smoothness through the entire path. I just want to highlight, again, what I think he does so well, which kind of is his secret sauce. Generally, when there's a hard thrower, we can pinpoint one or two things that really stand out in their patterns, either an extreme range of motion or, extreme athleticism or arm speed or extremely efficient lead leg block. And I think for him, what it comes down to is not just how smooth and fluid he is overall, but it's the depth and the positions he's able to get into his lower half load position. So right here, you can see just how extreme of a coil and of a load and how long he's able to hold this hinge position. So he's in extreme hip internal rotation in this position right here. So again, what's going on here is he's trying to find a way to create as much of that linear momentum towards the target as possible while still being able to rotate out of that, right? So it's not simply good enough to ride the backside and jump off the rubber and create a bunch of force. This is only relevant if you're able to create that linear momentum and then actually transfer out of that position and rotate. It's that rotation in the landing that allows us to actually get it up the chain into the trunk and ultimately out and around into the arm. So that's what he's able to do so well. He's able to hold this coil, hold this tension in the back hip and ride it for an extremely long period of time. This actually reminds me of Chase Petty. Go ahead and watch that breakdown if you haven't already. But just as an example of a guy with extremely good hip mobility and hip rotation range of motion, this is extremely demanding on the groin. You need to have strength and also length through the groin, through the adductor muscles, and also through the deep hip rotators. And also he's a looser mover in general. He's a guy who has good hip rotation range of motion. in this position. And some guys just genetically don't have the hip structure to do this. Again, I already mentioned Justin Verlander, but it's this combination of foot stability, hip stability, length and strength to be able to hold this position and then fire and rotate out of that. The other thing that he does extremely well is in regards to his arm action and his arm spiral. So again, we talked about kind of stitching loops of energy together. When it comes to the lower half, there's that linear drive phase, creating linear momentum. Then there's that rotational phase from here to here, unloading the pelvis. That's converting the linear into rotation. But then the other kind of loop that we're looking at is this independent loop up here, which is the arm spiral. And so he's an example of creating a ton of rhythm within the arm spiral itself. So if we look at the hands, he's already creating some rhythm with a little bit of a hand glove tap, a little bit of rhythm there. And we talk about capturing that pendulum of energy through the arm spiral. So he's not tensing up. He's able to relax the bicep, relax the upper trap, relax the tricep, relax the lat, and just let that ball seamlessly track along this loop. And so it's one seamless loop of energy, no lags, no hitches, all the way until he gets to this flipped up position. You can see that a little bit better from the front. Relaxing the arm, allowing it to spiral up, neutral wrist. Arm spirals up. Again, minimal tension. That's what allows the arm to get up and back in such a great deep position. Again, good mobility, not tensing up through the pecs, good length there to be able to get in the scap retracted position. A lot of pitchers can't get here and need a ton of mobility work to be able to get here. Obviously, there's a genetic component to this, but he's able to just capture that, get into a really good deep position. This is, full scap retraction. The shoulder blades are touching, horizontal abduction. The elbows are far back behind the body, and the arm is up, close to vertical, somewhere 75, 80 degrees. So it's in a position now. The hips go, then the shoulders, the trunk begins to go, and the arm lags back for a hair in this position. As the trunk begins to fire, the arm is lagging back a hair. There's a huge stretch through that pec fascia, through that throwing arm pec fascia. Again, the arm is kind of being left behind the body. 2 frames later, it catches up. Now it's in line with the body. And so he's closed that gap. He's gone from all the way back here, right arm, 8, 12 inches behind the head in that full position of scap retraction to right around release. Again, no longer in full scap retraction. He's closed the gap. That's the pec pull we talk about. And again, he's maximally leveraging that elastic capability through that pec fascia. He's capturing as much momentum as possible through that seamless handbrake, no lags, no hitches. Hips go, shoulders go, arm lags behind, huge pec stretch, and then everything slingshots through. And then we have this, what I would consider the second phase of the arm spiral. And that's from this position, how does the arm unwind? Does the arm just kind of shoot forward and push, or does that arm unfurl and unwind out and around into elbow extension? And so again, that's what we see here. The arm takes this helical path out and around into ball release, elbow straight in line with the shoulders. And so he's getting the arm synced up right in that rotational plane of the shoulders and of the pelvis. Lead leg does a great job of decelerating the pelvis. Again, if we watch the lead knee compared to that 55, the guy standing behind him, boom. Perfectly blocks that linear momentum, transfers it up the chain, paw back mechanism, firm lead foot, pimps the finish, not finishing in a picture perfect fielding position, allowing that rotation after he blocks that momentum to take him up and over. And again, just easy gas. So huge fan of how he throws. Just wanted to kind of show him some love, break down his mechanics real quick. Let me know what you think in the comments about his delivery. Who do you think has quote unquote perfect mechanics, if such a thing really did exist? And who do you guys want to see me break down next? Let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next video.